Live from downtown Vancouver at the Vancouver Film School campus, it's time for EP Live. Hey, welcome to EPN. My name is Victor Lucas, and we bring you, thank you very much, we bring you the latest in everything cool, and we've got a very cool episode of EP Live for you today with three guests. We've got Christopher Mitchell and Scott Henshaw from the Vancouver Film School, and also Alberto, who works at Original Fire Games, is going to show us their brand new video game. We've got a pretty cool EP exclusive coming up on the show, but first, we have a rundown to get to and all the cool news that's going on out there right now. This one is dedicated to Dollar Bill, who says, great review. I loved you in G4, and I love you now. Thank you so much, Dollar Bill. This rundown is all yours. Control developer Remedy Entertainment has shined a light on the post-launch content for the game, and some of it might surprise you. The new sci-fi action game is getting a crossover with another Remedy franchise, Alan Wake. The second planned expansion for Control is called AWE, or AW, and will see the game's hero, Jesse, investigate altered world events that apparently take her to the world of Alan Wake. Remedy recently bought back the rights to the Alan Wake franchise from original publisher Microsoft, which means that they could do even more with the property in the future, and I think they will. The crossover DLC hits Control in mid-2020. Before that, Control will get other content, including a new story expansion, a challenging endgame mode, and a photo mode, and this game is phenomenal. If you haven't checked out Control, definitely do that. It's absolutely gorgeous, and it's a mind twist of a game as well. Lots of great sort of twists and turns in the mysterious world that they crafted. Really, really impressed with that. And there were lots of Alan Wake little Easter eggs in there. I didn't catch them when I did my review, but lots of people that have dug deep into the confines of Control have found a lot of stuff that sort of suggests that it's all in the same universe. But Control exists in a lot of weird universes. You have to check this game out. It's amazing, and congratulations to Remedy for the success that it's enjoying. That's fantastic. Yet another big publisher is jumping on the cloud gaming bandwagon. With Google Stadia coming soon, Electronic Arts has begun rolling out a tech test for their own cloud-based streaming service, Project Atlas. The test will run for the next 2 weeks and is open to anyone who has an EA Origin subscription, and right now comes with 4 games: FIFA 19, Titanfall 2, Need for Speed Rivals, and Unravel. EA first announced that they were working on their own cloud platform last year, and like similar services, their hope is that it will bring in loads of new players by allowing them to run games on pretty much any hardware that they want. No word on how many more streaming platforms might be coming. I mean, this is the future, you guys. I know it's kind of freaky, but Netflix has been sort of laying down the road, and lots of other companies have been jumping on board to create content in this manner, and I don't see how video games can kind of avoid that forever. It feels like the architecture is being put into place, and yes, that means that a lot of faster internet is going to have to come to the forefront to allow us as close to lagless video game entertainment as possible, and that's not going to be easy. But if Google's involved, they've clearly done the business case on this, and they've staked out a healthy future for this as an opportunity, and it suggests a much bigger future for video games. And clearly EA doesn't want to miss that boat. It's going to be interesting, though. I don't know how many people are going to be able to afford 15 or 20 different digital streaming subscriptions, but it's still early days, and I think all of these companies are going to fight to the death until one big shark swallows the little fish, and then it's all going to be Disney, guys. Come on. I think we should just get it over with. It's all going to be Disney at some point. All right, game makers like to think big, and at least one of them is taking this idea a bit literally, with Ubisoft's new Ghost Recon Breakpoint offering the biggest map yet in the series, not to mention other massive games like Assassin's Creed Unity and The Division 2. The publisher doesn't have any plans to scale things down. Speaking with GameIndustry.biz, Ubisoft CEO Yves Guillemot says they plan to deliver even more open-world games in the future with even bigger maps. He says that they make it easier to fill the game with more content that keeps bringing players back, which makes big-budget games more sustainable by allowing them to have longer lifespans. Breakpoint deploys next month. This strategy is working well for Ubisoft. As a game reviewer, I look at that as just like a tremendous amount of work to try to get through all of this stuff and to come back with thoughts on these games, because they never end. And there's a million objectives, which is like a to-do list of all the things that I got to take care of. It creates anxiety in me, I have to be honest. But clearly, there's lots of players out there that just like gravitate towards a piece of entertainment, and the last Ghost Recon Wildlands game was massively successful, and they stay in that world, and then Ubisoft keeps bringing out new content. Now, if one of these companies, let's say Sony, and their Spider-Man universe gave us a full Manhattan that we could explore and go into all the buildings, but we could play as superheroes in the Spider-Man universe, I would never leave that, you know? And that excites me like crazy, the idea of like episodic content dropped into a massive open-world superhero experience. That could be super rad. Clearly, Ubisoft needs to start making some superhero games. But yeah, I'm looking forward to Breakpoint. I'm looking forward to maybe completing about that much of it when I play it, and then hearing how my review didn't play all of the different sort of modes that are in there. But they're massive, and I'm looking forward to checking it out. I know a lot of you are very excited about that one as well. All right, the iPhone 11 was announced yesterday, as anybody that turned on any screen anywhere was made acutely aware. Apple streamed on YouTube for the very first time, and I saw at one point there were more than 1 million viewers, just like on our stream today, more than 1 million viewers watching us right now on EP Live. Thank you to the million that are watching us. But lots of big announcements on the iPhone. Something that wasn't announced, and it was a little bit shocking that it wasn't, but also leaked that it wouldn't be, is the fact that these new super powerful phones don't have 5G connectivity. It wasn't discussed, so presumably not going to be a part of the equation. Not inexpensive phones. I almost called them cameras. That's what's exciting to me the most, is all of the hot camera tech that's in both the iPhone 11, but especially the iPhone 11 Pro, which starts at $1379 for the smaller version, $1519. These are Canadian prices. $1519 for the Max version. So iPhone 11 Pro Max is the title of the phone I want. But it comes with 4 cameras. It has 3 on the back, a telephoto, an ultra wide, and a wide, and it has a 4K camera on the front. And there's already software coming for this phone that will allow you to take in 4 individual streams of video at the same time, and you can record 2 at the same time. And when I watched that demo, my mind was blown, because you can stick the camera between a conversation and record from the front-facing camera one part of the conversation, and from one of the back cameras the other part of the conversation, which completely changes the way an interview might happen or a documentary might happen. It's incredibly exciting, and all of the lens tech, but also all the computational tech that's going into these phone/cameras is mind-blowing. They also announced that for $499, I think that's the U.S. pricing, a month, you're going to be able to join up for Apple Arcade. They're launching with 100 games, and the list is big, and there's lots of established titles. I saw that Enter the Gungeon is one of those titles. I saw that super cool Annapurna music game. What's it called again? The Sayonara Wild Hearts. That I played that at E3. It's sensational, and that's going to be one of the games. So you pay $5 a month. It's a subscription. It's all you can eat. There's no in-app purchases. You get the full game. It's very exciting. What's crazy about that is how much time Apple gave to games on their stage. And I thought about Steve Jobs, and he came from Atari and from the game space, but he had no time for it after a while. And so we never got game stuff at these Apple keynotes, or very little. But yesterday it was crowded with game stuff, and some big announcements. So congrats to everybody at Apple. Looking forward to playing with your new toys. All right, you guys, that's going to do it for our rundown. Let's take a look back at this day in everything cool. Welcome to This Day and Everything Cool for September 11th. On this day in 2015, Mario got to meet his maker because Nintendo released Super Mario Maker on the Wii U. Inspired by creation games like Little Big Planet, Super Mario Maker gave players the ability to create, play, and share their very own Mario levels, putting the touchscreen of the Wii U gamepad to good use. Nintendo didn't just give you the option of making old 8-bit style Mario games. Players could use assets from pretty much every side-scrolling Mario game spanning the character's 30-year history and mix and match accordingly. They could also use amiibo figures to unlock in-game versions of characters from other Nintendo franchises, which basically meant that you could make your own side-scrolling Zelda or Splatoon games as well. As you might expect, not all of the user-generated levels were great, but many of them were pretty cool, showing an impressive level of creativity. Super Mario Maker was a critical and commercial success, with more than 7 million user-generated levels available within the first 6 months. All told, the game sold 3.5 million copies and probably would have done much better if the Wii U itself had been a more popular system. A 3DS version was released a year later, and there are rumors that Nintendo is working on an all-new Mario Maker for the Switch. Super Mario Maker is such a classic game. I'm still dabbling with Super Mario Maker 2, but I've been busy on the Switch. There's been lots of fun games to play on the Switch. Listen, it's time for our featured interviews today, and we've got some fantastic guests. Both of these gentlemen helped to run the game design program and the programming program, I always say that, at the Vancouver Film School. And they've both come from making lots of very cool games, some of your favorite games. Please join me in welcoming Christopher Mitchell and Scott Henshaw up to the stage. Come on up, you guys. Good to see you, Chris.
Hey, it's good to see you again.
Good to see you, Scott. Grab a seat, you guys. Now, this is really cool. You guys teach students how to make video games, but you come at that from lots and lots of experience and lots of hard lessons learned, I would imagine, over the years working for different companies.
Oh God, yes.
Now, Chris, you run the whole program.
That's correct.
But you used to work at Radical back in the day, right? What was the first game that you worked on at Radical?
The first game I worked on at Radical was a game called Dark Angel. And I was a brand new designer. I have to say I was absolutely terrible. I definitely made that game worse by being on that team. I can really happily say that. But you know, I got quite lucky. You know, I worked really hard to learn a few things. Then luckily I got put on some other games to give me another chance to actually be a proper designer and make some better experiences.
That's awesome. So that was the Jessica Alba TV show video game.
That's right.
They don't make TV show video games all that often. You got to sit a little bit closer.
Sure.
Tuck in. Thanks, buddy. But they did make an amazing Simpsons video game.
That's right.
At Radical, and you were one of the designers on Simpsons Hit and Run.
Yeah, they made a pair of Simpsons games there. They made Road Rage, and then they made what probably would have been Road Rage 2 and slowly over time morphed into Simpsons Hit and Run,
right.
Which is still really close to my heart. It's just an amazing game, an amazing team.
It was an open world like Grand Theft Auto in the Simpsons universe.
That's right. I mean, it was Grand Theft Auto for kids, I know, but I also know lots of like grown-ups or kids at heart like me just absolutely fell in love with the world and the chance to, you know, kick Ralph Wiggum all day and all the other strange reasons people like that game.
It's such a juggernaut franchise. Do you still find people finding the game and posting videos and stuff like that about the game online?
I mean, certainly not new players so much, but I see it on Reddit constantly, which is amazing. So much so that there has to be someone squirreling away on a remaster or a sequel or something crazy like that, which I would be really happy to see, of course.
It was phenomenal. Now, Scott, you worked at EA for a long time.
Yeah.
And you were a programmer.
I started as a director, and then worked in the production side for the most part. Yeah.
That's cool. And what was the first title? What brought you to EA? Did you know you wanted to make games?
No, I was tricked into it completely. A friend of a friend said, "Hey, these guys need some project managers that had some experience with R&D projects and stuff that had never been done before.
Right.
But we can't talk about it."
Got you.
And so I said, "I'm in." And then they said, "Well, you got to have an interview first." And I was headed to EA Canada, and most of the games they build there are sports games. So I'm kind of thinking it's a sports game. In the meantime, having some fun playing my own sports, broke my collarbone. And I think that was pretty much what nailed the interview for me. When you show up to a sports franchise with broken bones from playing sports, they're like, "Yep, you're in."
and you showed up with broken bones. That's commitment right there.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Did you have a brace on in the whole
No,
thing?
no, just a little sling.
Okay.
Just a little sling.
Very nice. What was the first title that you worked on?
That first title ended up being SSX.
Wow. Not
So
bad. That was your first game that you worked on at
That was the first game. Yeah.
Incredible. So
Yeah,
you worked
slightly
with
bigger than Dark Angel. Yeah.
you worked with Steve Reckschaffner.
Yeah. Steve was our executive producer for that game.
Was it? I mean, it was a little bit of a weird side story for EA, right? Like it sort of came out of nowhere and surprised us in the industry, all the critics and reviewers. Was it weird to make that game? Did you feel like you were in a secret bubble that the rest of EA didn't ever get to look at?
No, it was a typical challenge, and we found people who are used to working on new and innovative, creative things that we're largely told that can't be done or that hasn't been done before.
Right.
And so we're like, yeah, sure, we'll show you. And it was a good mix of folks who knew what they were doing and of folks that had no idea what couldn't be done.
Yeah.
So they just did them anyways. And, we went through our own, it took a while, that first one. We went through a lot of different console changes of where it was going to launch on. The company was really good at trying to get us the hardware, software we needed as early as we can. But yeah, we had some interesting challenges going there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and eventually had the partnership with Sony and PlayStation 2 and.
Yeah, so Sony delivered us some of their first. I remember spending a Christmas with one of Sony's hand-soldered PlayStation 2s on my desk, and there was no manual for it.
Yeah.
So myself and the lead programmer had to figure out how to get this game to start.
Wow.
And it was a back and forth of he'd try something, I'd make a disc and try it.
So, I mean, in the news today, I'm talking about Stadia and EA getting into streaming. And are those days dying? This idea, like you're going to backwards engineer or reverse engineer a piece of tech and to try to make something creative on it?
I think so. I mean, I think even the console manufacturers kind of recognize these days that they're the end terminal of that pipeline, of that conduit.
Yeah.
And all they really need to do is to be able to play what we provide.
Yes.
And people can choose whichever terminal they prefer.
Right.
But it shouldn't make a difference to us.
And I guess with, you guys are partnered at the school with companies like Epic and Unity.
Yeah, the level of communication we get from them is amazing. Like Epic's actually visited us a bunch of times recently just to specifically train our staff and work with the students and surprise them on the production floor. It's compared to the bad old days where it's Scott in a dark room trying to fix something. It's just amazing.
And I have to imagine that some of the challenges that you had in the games industry ultimately led you to say, well, we got to help students, and I also want to change my life because this is hard work trying to build something out of the ethers like this. But now, do you ever look at your students with a little bit of envy? Like they have all of these tools that they can just pick up?
Yeah, the amount of stuff they get for free out of game engines is just completely ridiculous.
Or the things they think they want to build themselves, and you're like, no, really, it works. Yeah. Like, just use the one that works.
Right.
Trust me. Spend your time on the fun stuff. Don't spend your time on the hard stuff, because these game engines have really revolutionized the way we think about making games. You know, the number of people it took to do basic things that comes for free out of the box these days. It's crazy. It's where a small team of 5 or 10 people could do what we used to need 40 or 50 to do.
Right.
And that's just going to propel more good, high-quality games from indie developers, and that's just going to push the industry forward.
When did you start teaching, Scott?
Was it 5 years ago now?
Something like that, yeah. I think 5 years almost to the day.
And how about yourself, Christopher?
I'm about 8 years in.
8 years?
And the programming department actually sort of came about because we recognized in game design that the people getting hired first and hired at the highest salaries were time and again the programmers, of course, right? So some dedicated content just to drive all that and support all that made a lot of sense.
And has the program had to change and adapt quite a bit, even since the 5 or 8 years that you started?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like most new things, you kind of draw a line in the sand and say, I think this is what we're going to need, and you test it out there with your contacts in the industry.
Yeah.
And they come back and tell you you're wrong in a whole bunch of different places. So you make some corrections, and then partway through the development of program and we're delivering it to students, we realized we missed a bunch of stuff.
Yes.
And so we did a little bit of a reshuffle or a reorganization to line ourselves up with game design a little better and to provide a better service, if you will, in that delivering the things that game companies here want.
And I think that's a big ingredient in the success of the VFS game program is that you guys are connected to all of these professional entities out there. You have lots of friends that still make video games. And they come and they mentor and they're a part of the whole sort of process here.
Yeah, I can give a great example in the form of live operations.
Yeah.
Lots of mobile companies were hiring our students and actually kind of complaining they didn't know how to do live operations.
Yeah.
So they more or less gave us the curriculum that now we teach.
Oh,
and
wow.
then of course Scott guys are driving the analytics and telemetry side of things behind all that.
Right. Yeah, I've been able through invites from you guys and from the school itself. I've been able to host some of these pitch and play things. I'm constantly blown away by the quality of the work, but also by the different jobs that people want to do. And I had somebody on stage say they want to get into analytics in video games a couple of years ago, and I was like, wow, I guess that is a whole career track right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And does it kind of blow your mind how many different directions video games are taking people these days? Could you see that was the way it was going to go when you started?
Here, you want to take
Yeah, I mean, there was some of it, yes, you could definitely see, but you didn't have the people to do.
Right.
Or the technology to do. And particularly when it came to the cloud and streaming stuff, you're like, the technology, the bandwidth wasn't there, the servers weren't there, or it was too expensive.
Yeah.
To collect what you really wanted to collect. So you had to kind of like move on and, okay, we're still learning how to draw triangles. Whereas these days, all that drawing the triangle stuff is pretty easy.
Yeah.
You use someone else's game engine. But the other stuff, the technology allowed us to start to track what people are doing and take advantage of it, not from an exploitive standpoint, but from how do we make the game better for the player?
Well, you're also dealing with a generation of people that want to be game makers that have never known a world that doesn't have video games.
Right.
So they have this education and this language all down before they decide that they want to come to the school to learn some different skills. What primarily do they learn at the school? What are they able to go out into the workforce with, do you think, Christopher?
Well, a lot of that depends on kind of where they decide to stream and what sort of things they want to focus on. I mean, obviously they can focus in on programming, they can focus in on art.
Yeah.
More and more people are focusing in on strong design skills too, of course, right? You'd be surprised where they sort of draw those design skills from. I mean, they come out of board games, they come out of Dungeons and Dragons,
Yeah.
They come out of good critical analysis skills. Like there's important soft game design skills, almost border on cognitive science, that
Yeah.
then are fantastically reinforced by the technical side of things.
That's awesome. What about from your vantage point?
A lot of the stuff people come to is that group of people that we looked for early on, who didn't know what they couldn't do. We get a lot of that.
Yeah.
We get a lot of that. And particularly, they don't really have a good sense, and nor should they, of what's hard and what's easy.
Yeah.
So you kind of got to wind back a bit and start at the beginning and kind of from first principles go, okay, let's gonna do these things, and we'll build ourselves into doing the harder stuff as we go. What's been more interesting for me is the rate at which we get to the hard stuff.
Right. Especially for people that have never programmed or
Yeah.
done
Yeah.
game art ever before,
Yeah.
and they get to it.
In all facets of what we do, whether it's audio or art or modeling or animation or programming, stuff that we would expect people to take a couple years to become competent in industry.
Yep.
A decade ago, we can get people up to speed in 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
And they can deliver industry quality stuff in that time. So, yeah, it kind of opens your eyes and the doors to what a little creative talent, some passion will do.
Absolutely.
Right.
Well, clearly there's synergy with behind the scenes stuff and the interviews that we've done with creative people across the spectrum of games and movies and everything that we cover. But it's been a big eye-opener for me to invite people to VFS and not know that they went to VFS, and that it keeps happening again and again. Are there, and I know it's kind of like picking from your favorite children here, but are there success stories that really warm your heart that you're very proud to share?
Yeah, there's some of them I happily talk about. Like Armando Teresi, I think he's from GDO 2 or something, a long time ago. I mean, he's a narrative director at Ubisoft now. He did a lot of the cinematic work that went behind Mass Effect 2, like proper franchise games that are just pillars of the gaming consciousness.
That's awesome.
There's a lot of people like this I can point towards. Google's new product has a GD grad working on it right now, which is amazing, of course. And I want to pester him for secret knowledge all day, but I also want to leave him alone so he doesn't spoil too much for me.
Well, I think what's true though is you guys are on to the next class already, right? That there's this constant, like, you're bringing in lots of people. Is there somebody that you can remember teaching that they're doing something amazing now?
There's a whole bunch of them. And I'm not going to pick on any one specific one. The number, most of the programming students end up working in the game industry. So, our folks are kind of littered in Relic and Kabam and Hellbent and EA. And the ones to me that stand out are, now that we've been running it for 5 years now, we're starting to get some of those guys who now have 4 or 5 years experience coming back and saying, hey, we'd like to teach.
Yeah,
that's great.
We'd like to come back and share what we've learned with some of the other students that you have. So.
And how does it work with the rest of the school? Because clearly, this school serves up a lot of information in a lot of different directions. Do you guys collaborate with the movie teams?
Well, there's certain collaborations we do a lot of, actually.
Yeah.
We collaborate with the Sound Campus every single time, essentially, right? Like, we couldn't function without the sound designers they give us over and over again.
Right.
We collaborate with the motion capture studio, of course, which is sort of hosted inside the 3D campus. And the reason that functions is because we have the acting campus that delivers, actors who know how to do acting for motion capture and then know how to do voice acting for us.
That's cool.
As well as collaborate with digital designers and 3D artists. There's lots of great opportunities.
It's all threaded, right? And Vancouver is, I've been saying this for a long time. It's been an amazing home for Electric Playground, but it's really like the nexus for all of these different creative arts. One of the things that the school is doing, and we're sort of a product of that here with making EP Live at the Cafe, which is at 390 West Hastings, by the way. Please come down anytime that you want. It's open to the public. But you have embedded industry partners. Beyond Capture is one of the other ones. But we're going to talk to one of your embedded industry partners.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm very excited about that.
And these are VFS grads that came back?
Yeah, it's a collection of VFS grads and then industry veterans. They basically formed a new game company, and they made a pretty amazing product. I don't want to spoil too much because I don't want to steal their thunder here.
Yeah.
And they needed a place to make the game. So luckily we were able to get them that space inside the game design and programming building, which is a tremendous resource for us. And of course it gives students access to a live production, which is pretty cool.
That's awesome. When you guys look back on your careers, and you're still just at the beginning, early stages.
That's adorable.
Okay, but when you look back, do you see it as one constant through line, and teaching is just a part of what you started with making games, or is there a split? Did you make a conscious choice to be teachers?
Well, I mean, I made a conscious choice to start teaching because we just had a baby and my wife asked me to have a nice 9-to-5 job.
Okay, gotcha.
But I discovered you couldn't quite quit.
Yeah.
Like I wound up keeping a toe in the industry and still at least helping out on the odd product. Or you definitely get that thirst to keep building. But luckily, I mean, working at the game design building, we touch 30 games a year or something
more.
like that? Yeah, more than that. Yeah.
It's more like 60.
So you still get to make games. You still get to participate in it.
Well,
it's almost best of both worlds.
You get ignored as much as you ever did.
Yeah.
No, for me it was more of a fork. I've made some giant left turns along the way.
Yeah.
And some of it has all been, have I not done this before? Okay, good. Let's try this.
Right.
And they're not really always conscious choices. It's usually the people that you meet in all these different industries are usually pretty good people, and sooner or later some of them call you up and go, hey, could you, would you, and sometimes they give you interesting opportunities that you just like, yep, got to say yes to that, and see what's going to come.
Awesome. Well, I know what is also true about video games and why they're so, for all of us that don't need to be convinced of this, we're all acutely aware of how powerful they are as a medium and how much they got to that position based on shared information and knowledge and sort of, giving people information at community events and things like that.
Yeah,
So,
and still very much an unfinished medium too.
Absolutely,
Right? I mean,
yeah.
they're as different from all other art forms as books are from music.
Right.
And I think we're still kind of figuring that out.
incredibly
finding a new genre.
collaborative, incredibly influential and powerful out there, but still self-defining. That's very cool. All right, well, we're going to meet one of your former students who is busy working on their brand new game with Original Fires. Thank you, guys.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank
Thanks.
you. And I'm going to invite our friend Alberto. What's your last name again? Mastretta. Alberto Mastretta from Original Fire Games. And this is a game that I don't know if tons of people know about, but you guys have been working on this for a little while. And one of the things that I do know is that you're working with Square on getting this out there, right?
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Of course, Alberto. Good to meet you.
Yeah, nice
Good to
to
meet
meet
you.
you.
So tell us a little bit about your title and your company.
For sure. So we are a new company that formed out of the desire to build this game
Yep.
and the support from Square Enix and of course VFS as well, that is helping us just have a place to build a game in. And so the game is a top-down racing game that we're building as an ode to motorsport. So there's a bit of a background history with my family, but just to finish talking about the game, basically we just have a huge drive to capture a sport that we love in all of the history that it has and diversity that it has into something that is accessible by many people and do it in a loving way, and we're just putting our hearts into it.
I mean, I'm an old school gamer. I've been playing games for a long time. I love top-down racers. I have fond memories of RC Pro-Am from Rare and Super Sprint and stuff. Was that something that you guys always wanted to do, was get into the sort of overhead perspective racing experience?
The idea behind the top-down racing is definitely influenced by those games.
Yeah.
And it's just a sort of like a genre that got a bit ignored for a few
For sure,
years.
yeah.
I mean, there's been great top-down racing games through all the game development history.
Yeah.
But not as often as
Right.
they used to. It was basically mostly due to technology allowing for huge, beautiful worlds from just like a more realistic approach.
Yes.
And but I don't know. I mean, there's amazing stuff to be done in every genre. And
You have a cutesy kind of look. Oh, okay. You got to get closer to the mic. Sorry, buddy.
no worries.
There you go. Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right. There's a cutesy kind of vibe to the game, but it sounds like there's also like a sim kind of element to this too. It sounds like there's going to be a tremendous amount of building and learning and growing in the title.
Yeah. So as part of just this idea of displaying the sport
Yeah.
in this environment that is just like a bit more accessible, but it's still representative of what we appreciate the most. And we believe that people can, is just improving as a driver. And so it's not an easy game.
Okay.
It definitely has some skill to it, and people will find out. But yeah, it's cute in its aesthetic, but definitely it bites.
Okay, it's cute, but it bites. I like
Yeah.
that. That could be your tagline. How did you partner up with Square Enix?
So through an industry friend,
Yeah.
that they showed the game to them, and then we started talking with Square Enix. So we're collaborating with Square Enix Collective.
Okay.
They're a 6-person team at Square Enix London.
Yep.
And they're dedicated to indie games.
Yeah.
They just love indie games. They look at indie games to support, and we were lucky enough to be supported by them. And so yeah, they just played the game and loved it, and eventually just we agreed to work together.
That's awesome. Now, Original Fire is the name of your studio. Can you tell me why
Yeah.
it's called Original Fire?
For sure.
Yeah.
My sister does this very well. But
Okay.
I'm gonna try it. So the idea
All right,
is.
wait a second. Your sister works with you guys?
Yeah. So it's
Yeah?
it's a family endeavor. It originally was a family endeavor. Now we're a more diverse team.
That's
Yeah,
great.
it
How,
was,
how many people from your family are on the team?
3.
Three?
So it's me and my 2. So
That's
my-
awesome.
All 3 siblings.
That's so
are
cool.
working
And
together.
you're not killing each other. You
no,
still
not at all.
you still like each other. That's so
No,
good.
I was trying to.
It can happen, people.
Yeah, we've been asked like about that.
Yeah.
That it's difficult to work with family. We've heard.
Yeah.
In a way, we were lucky enough to be exposed to working collaboratively
Mhm.
as we grew up.
Mhm.
Maybe that had something to do with it. That we're just used to it.
That's cool.
Because we would just do stuff together, either just like supporting a sibling to go to a tournament, or I don't know, my sister did gymnastics, and we would just go together to all these events, and I think that we're just used to it.
Okay,
So
well,
maybe-
channel your sister
Uh,
and tell me how you guys came up with the name for Original Fire.
Yeah, so the idea is that games are a medium that just brings people together.
Right.
And in the same way that fire does.
Right.
It's warm, and it's just something that people gather around to enjoy a time together.
Very cool.
And that's
I
the
like that
idea
very
behind
much. You should talk to Tommy Tellerico, or Square should talk to Tommy, because they're building the Intellivision system. And that's the motto of that.
Oh,
Of
it
their,
is?
their whole business is to bring people together
Oh.
and have accessible games.
All
But
right.
this one bites, though. I don't know if Intellivision wants cute games that bite. It's going to be out next year. Are you guys going to
Yeah.
do any early betas or anything like that? Are you going to give people a little hands-on time with it before that, or?
We don't have any announcements about early testing, but
Okay.
we'll definitely keep you posted on social media. And
That's
such
awesome.
to-
And so you're in Vancouver, but you're from Mexico.
Correct.
And
Yes.
did you went to VFS?
I did.
Did
yeah.
your siblings also go to VFS?
Just my sister.
Your sister
So
did.
Carlos didn't.
Okay.
But Carolina did.
Okay. And everybody moved up to Canada, and everybody's in Vancouver now, or?
Carlos is still in Mexico, but
Okay.
he's coming over to Vancouver in a month or so.
Okay.
Just to work together on the game. It's easier if we're all on the same space.
Right. But there is a little bit of sharing the workload and using the internet with different
Yes, absolutely.
creators. Yeah.
And even by the time the studio set up here in VFS, I was still in Mexico for about 2 months.
Okay.
And just working remotely and just staying communicated through Slack and Skype.
Awesome.
Whatever kept us
Awesome.
working together.
Do you want to announce the systems that it's going to be on or anything like that? I'm sure it's going to be on the PC.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's gonna be PC,
Yeah.
Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and Nintendo Switch.
Nice. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
So lots of consoles to tackle.
That's
and
so good,
Lots
man.
of work ahead of us. Yeah.
Well, give our love to your family, and good luck with the game, my friend.
Thank you. Thank
Can't
you
wait
so
for
much
it.
for having us.
Oh, what's it called? I don't think we ever said what the
Oh,
game is called.
The name of the game is Circuit Superstars.
Circuit Superstars. Very cool. So, and Square Enix will do the publishing, and
Yes.
we'll be seeing all kinds of stuff on that next year.
Absolutely.
Very cool. All right. Well, it's time for us to go back in time, which we like to do on EP. We've got a new segment. It's called 16-Bit Superheroes. Let's take a look. It's time for another 16-Bit Superheroes, and this one is all about the death and return of Superman, which came out for the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis back in 1994. And just to get you a recap, I'm doing this because I've realized in my recent love of superhero games like the Arkham series and Insomniac Spider-Man, there were plenty of classic superhero titles that I never got a chance to play, so I've gotten on a kick on collecting 16-bit cartridges for the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis. Death and Return of Superman is one of those. I picked this up for the Super Nintendo. I don't know if it's better than the Genesis version or not. I just saw it and I picked it up. Always wanted to play this game, and I think I probably did rent it or touch it or play it in a store or something. It stars the mulleted Superman, and it splits off into a bunch of other different types of Supermen. Radicator, Steel, Superboy, all in the costumes. If you guys remember in the mid-90s, there was that huge comic phenomenon where they killed Superman, and then he came back as a bunch of derivatives and kind of split versions of himself. Then, of course, the real Superman came back to life afterwards, as they always do in the comic books. Well, this game kind of follows that storyline. You start off as the traditional Superman, punching and kicking and heat visioning, all kinds of kind of generic bad guys at the top of the game. You eventually get killed by Doomsday, and that's when all hell breaks loose and all of these other different Supermen start appearing, and the game splits up from level to level as you play as each of these different characters. They all have the same kinds of abilities. It's really a beat-em-up, this game. But because you get all of these different Superman characters, it's fun to re-explore this. They've done a pretty good job at kind of encapsulating the comic book, even though contextually it doesn't really make sense. Like, they've really neutered Superman and his abilities. He's not that invincible, but they've never really been able to nail Superman's abilities in any video game. So why should one from 1994 be that different? For example, flight doesn't really help you all that much, although there are some kind of mini levels where you are flying and it's like a space shooter and you're blasting with your heat vision. It's kind of fun. The fact that you get to bounce around and play as Superboy and play as the Eradicator and play as Steel and, you know, all of these different variations makes the game kind of addictive. And the combat's pretty fun. You got the standard punch and kick and throw moves, and then you've got a sort of an ultimate move that you can pull off as well. I enjoyed bouncing through these levels and playing these different Superman characters. There are so many fantastic beat-em-ups on the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis that it's really hard to say that this stands with the best of them. But there definitely is some allure here because it does a decent enough job of kind of propping up what was created for us in the comic book. I had a pretty good time with Death and Return of Superman. It's an okay title, and the way that I'm scoring these games is not through the lens of nostalgia. It's not how I felt back then, because I think the game was kind of trashed when it came out originally, because we were already starting to move on to much better titles. But when you play games like this in a modern setting and through the lens of today, you can certainly feel that there is charm here, and that is absolutely the case with the Death and Return of Superman. I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. Yeah, I'm obsessed with some of those 16-bit superhero games, so we're going to have more classic reviews like that. It's really fun to plop those cartridges in and to see the inventiveness of developers when they had no hardware to work with. Modern-day gamers get to play a game that has the benefits of tremendously powerful hardware out there, and one of the studios that has been pretty consistent with building games that blow us away, at least visually, is Visual Concepts, aptly named. And they've got their latest basketball game out there. It's NBA 2K20, and this is a very controversial title right now. There's a lot of angry people on the internet that are having a lot of issues with this title. I have been playing the Legend Edition of the game, and I've only been playing it for the last couple of days, so I haven't put in a week and haven't focused on one specific element and gone back and tried to get every single detail out of everything. I've tasted all of the different modes in there, but my primary interest with the NBA 2K series in recent years has been the My Career, where you get to build a player and you get to go within the story. Now, what's interesting about the latest edition of the game is that Visual Concepts partnered with LeBron James, and he's got a production company now, and they put in a full-on movie based on the in-game art assets, and LeBron James is a character. He actually shows up in there. We've got other basketball players that are in there. Scottie Pippen showed up. Idris Elba plays one of the coaches, and he gives you some menacing glares and stares. Rosario Dawson is in there. Thomas Middleditch from Silicon Valley is in there, and the facial modeling and all the mocap stuff is just incredible. You really feel like you're watching a true cinematic piece of art. And great scripts, great performances. They've even got, is it Merkel? Or Urkel? Yeah, the guy that played Urkel has got a role in there. He just pops up out of nowhere. He's in there, which is hilarious. So you're watching this thing, waiting for the cameos to happen, and of course it's all about this this up-and-coming basketball player that takes a stand and sticks up for one of his teammates when his teammate is put into a precarious situation, and because of that has to kind of find his own way to the NBA. And I found when I was playing the game this year that I wasn't struggling as much to because you're scored right from the get-go. Right as soon as you're hitting the basketball court, you're scored on every move that you make, whether you make a good pass or you get the ball stripped from you, or you get somebody blocks a shot or something like that. You find your ranking going up and down, and I was doing quite well. And so I got to the point where we got into the NBA draft, and I was like a first-round draft pick. I got drafted by the Chicago Bulls, and there was my number, 17, with Lucas on the back of the jersey, and I'm holding it up, and I tried to model the character to look like, and I was like, wow, this is a freaking cool moment, because usually in these story beats that I get with the NBA series, I never make the first round draft pick. I'm like I'm on some team that I never watch or follow. So it was pretty exciting, and I was impressed artistically with a lot of the choices and stuff in there. I didn't get to the point where I was being funneled to lots of the in-game microtransactions, because this game, as we all know, 2K likes money, and there's lots of ways that they can earn money within this game. It wasn't in my face in lots of overt ways. What was in my face, though, is that even embedded within the story, everything will stop, and you'll have like a basketball player sit down with your character and talk to you about the benefits of Gatorade, and then, which is hilarious. It's like, what? This was a commercial. You just maybe sit through an embedded story. I can't believe it. And then you have to pick the shoe allegiance, and the guy, your character's like really mulling it over, like it's all, and you have all of these meetings. It's all embedded and built into the thing, where you have these meetings with all these representatives from Adidas and Nike and Reebok and everything. I like that they're all represented. I mean, that's a cool element there, and this is truly a part of the lifestyle of an NBA athlete, but it becomes a rampant commercial ad for all of these different brands out there, which is okay. I mean, by now we've come to realize that this is a big part of the experience. Now, in addition to my career, you also have the My Team mode, which is really about ripping open packs of cards. And I got the Legend Edition, so I had lots of My Team points that I was able to spend. So I had a really, I chose Vince Carter, and then I started to build up his card, and then I got the Dwayne Wade card, and I got the Anthony Davis card, who's the cover athlete this time. So I had an awesome team, but I didn't really stay in that mode for hours and hours and hours and hours, and I think that becomes the real, true addiction for a lot of people out there. And then I went and just played some Play Now. You can play as the WNBA, which is really cool. They've modeled all these famous female athletes in there, which is fantastic. They've really opened it up. Of course, they've got the blacktop mode, so you can play 1-on-1 or 2-on-2 or 3-on-3, 4-on-4, the whole way. You can do half court. There's arcadey sensibilities in here, but they've also tweaked and tuned a lot of the dribbling mechanics and some of the movement mechanics, some of the right stick functionality to make it all much more graceful. It does feel like just a slightly iterative step from the performance that I got out of NBA 2K19. I wasn't like seeing new features gameplay-wise that I'm like, oh my God, I've never seen anything like this before. They also have the playground mode where you can walk around inside of an open world environment and pick up all kinds of shiny things and be attracted to all kinds of brands and things. And that's where they're pushing the customization options and the virtual currency stuff that's in there. Troubling, though, was that when I wanted to play online, and this was as my day was wrapping up, I basically played last night for a few hours, and I played all this morning. So I don't know, I've put in about 8 hours or something like that into this game already, and it's addictive. I was having fun the whole way, but I wanted to kind of end my play experience by playing some online matches to see how the game crashed on me 5 times. I could not get online to play anybody, and that is very problematic. This is a franchise that has become bread and butter for 2K. It's multiple million selling juggernaut, and it also makes tons of money in DLC. I with sports games, I can kind of reconcile that the collection of cards is very analogous to collecting card packs if you love the real sport as well. I mean, there's a real one-to-one there. So I have less issues with the idea that you get addicted to, card collecting and ripping open packs, and you sometimes get duplicates, which sucks, but that's part of, if you follow a sport, you're going to get duplicate cards if you ever buy card packs in the real world as well. There are other things, though, like experience boosts and things like that you can spend money on. There is a way to kind of circumvent the grinding that's inherent in the game, and that's troublesome. But the fact that there were any performance issues on a game that's this important to this company and to the fans that exist out there is really it's really a big letdown. And the only thing that comes to mind for me is that it is an iterative experience. They always are. But this one maybe feels like it adheres to a lot of the work that went into NBA 2K19 a little too closely. And we know that the next-gen machines are all coming, so my suspicion is that it takes a lot of work to sort of go to the next level with these games. They're going to be a lot closer to photoreal, and there's going to be new features that we haven't even thought of that are going to be a part of NBA 2K21, which will be on the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Scarlet when those come out next year. So my suspicion is that a lot of the marquee team members and this is just my speculation, okay? I don't know what's going on, so don't start any flame wars or anything like that. Don't go after anybody here. But I think that a lot of the talent that would be supervising and a part of getting this to be the true next level, next year version of the game was probably working already on what is coming out next year. And so this does feel like a little bit of a letdown. Even though I love the My Career mode, I think this new partnership with LeBron James and the creatives involved is terrific. And I'm having a good time. It's just a drag that it's pissing so many people off. People are having performance issues where they'll be in the green when they release a shot and they'll keep missing, so they're not getting the points and the rewards that they can then use to upgrade their characters. And that's like swinging a sword in an RPG and it doesn't register. It doesn't make any. You don't get any of the goodies from that. So I can totally sympathize with people that are frustrated out there. I can also sympathize with 2K Sports and with Visual Concepts, who are probably like freaking out right now trying to get everything patched and working and putting smiles back on faces. I love this franchise. I do feel a little bit let down, but like I say, I have had a tremendous amount of fun. I didn't want to put the controller down. I'm thinking of playing it right now as I'm talking about it, so I'm a little torn. I guess what I'm going to give my score right now for NBA 2K20, based on what I've seen and played so far, I'm going to give it a cautious 8 out of 10. Okay? All right, we have a little bit of time left, and since we are still enjoying a lot of 16-bit stuff, and Nintendo recently said you can play our classic Super Nintendo games on the Nintendo Switch, why don't we do that right now? And we've got a new gentleman in the audience we haven't seen before. What's your name? Francesco, you want to come up and play? You want to play some 16-bit stuff? Cool. Welcome, Francesco, up to the stage. I just have to find the remote control. There it is. Okay, cool. And I'll put this on the right thing. I think it's this one. Grab a seat right there. Where are you from, Francesco? Are you one of the students here?
No.
No?
I'm from Brazil.
You're from Brazil?
Yeah.
Fantastic. And do you watch EP in Brazil?
What?
Do you watch our show from Brazil, or
no,
this
is my first time ever
you just stumbled in?
hearing about you.
Yeah. And you found a show, and you're on the show. That's the way it works. That's awesome. Okay, cool. Let's get this off. Hold on one sec. Okay, and we're gonna switch over to. Oh, you got to turn this on here. One sec. There you go. Cool. I think it should pop up there. There it is. Right. And let's get it for the audience as well. HDMI2. Not that one. Sorry, buddy.
It's okay. What?
What's your favorite game?
Thank you, Josue.
The Final Fantasy franchise.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Which is your favorite out of the Final Fantasy?
Oh, I really like the 10. Final Fantasy 10. It's the first game I ever played.
There it is.
And
Okay, cool.
yeah.
Classic game. Okay, so go ahead and pick whatever you want out of the collection of. Did you play the Super Nintendo?
No.
No,
never
you're
played.
too young for the Super Nintendo. This was a very popular console back in the 90s.
Okay, I'll play Super Mario World.
There you go, Super Mario World. That's a safe choice. That's
Yeah.
awesome. You didn't have it in Brazil? No?
We do have it in Brazil, but I never played.
You never played it.
on
So
the
what was your
Nintendo.
first game machine then?
My first game machine was the PlayStation 2.
PlayStation 2 was his first. I feel so freaking old right now. I've never felt older on this show. Oh my God, that's amazing. That's awesome. Okay, so this is Let's Play and Chat. I'm going to let you figure out how to play Mario.
Okay.
Okay, go for it. So if you've got any questions or comments on the show, or you want to add anything to this insanity, if you want to tell me how young you are, now is your chance. Let's see. Can you please try to find Aliens 3 on Sega and review it? It was my first system. That's Kraken Pines. I have Aliens 3. I don't know what machine. Was it on the Nintendo as well? I have the thing somewhere. But that sounds cool. I'm in the superhero mode right now. I'm not going to review everything on all these old consoles. Although this is pretty rad to be able to play this on a Switch. Do you have a Switch right now?
No, my friend has a Switch.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was just released. They said to anybody that's on Nintendo Online, you get all these Switch games or all these Super
Okay.
Nintendo games for free.
Oh, that's pretty nice.
It's pretty rad, right?
Yeah.
Okay, we've got Abby Jameson says SNES-tastic. Nintendo Boy 17 says EA has a hold on NFL like Namco Bandai has on anime. Yes, it's interesting how all of these exclusives have locked up on all of these different platforms. And I didn't see anything on a new NBA Live this year. Did you guys see anything? No, it's like it totally dropped off. Yeah, they were doing okay last year. I never got a chance to check it out, but it's like they were clawing back, and now it's gone again. Yeah, it's crazy. Sam I Am 111 says it's kind of ironic how EA made the NFL exclusivity agreement, yet 2K muscled them out of the NBA space. Yeah, it was just all back and forth with all of these things. I actually have a reviewable build of NBA Live 11, and that was the year where they canceled the game after they sent the code out to reviewers to be able to review the game. And I've got the game. We never reviewed it because they sent another note saying, don't review it. There's bugs, we're canceling. So they canceled the game. That's never happened before, where that's a lot of money. And then there are lots of firings, and they shifted development, I think, down to Tiburon in Florida. It had been a vaunted franchise at EAC for a long time. It was a real point of pride. And then something happened, and it's crazy. I should play that someday. I should put that on the show, NBA Live. I'm sure EA would love that. Never get another guest from EA if I do that, probably. Okay, Adrian Leon says, Sam I Am 111, Sonic the Hedgehog, Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, and Sonic Underground, where he did the voice of Sonic in. I guess you guys are talking about a Sonic voice actor. Oh, Jaleel White. Yes, of course, that's the guy. He's Urkel. I didn't know what his name is. Yeah. This episode of EP Live dedicated to Jaleel White, Mr. Urkel. I mean, a 4 out of 10 as a reviewer to me, that means, yeah, you can play it, but everything sucks. Graphics, sound, control, you wouldn't want to play a 4. That's not Strider. Oh, Dr. Gamelove is talking about because I've reviewed a bunch of the Sega Genesis mini games in a micro review setting. There's 42 games on that. That's going to be live again tomorrow, by the way. Sega reached out and said we jumped the gun a little bit too much. I thought they're old games. Everybody's seen these things. I can review them, but they're trying to keep it all embargoed for the thing. So tomorrow my review of the Sega Genesis mini hits, and we also have a review of the 42 games. It's a long video of the 42 games that are included on there. But I did not like Strider. Spoiler alert. It was weird to go back to it and play it because in our minds it's an amazing game. But playing it again, I was like, this is lame, man. I just felt like I wasn't connecting on any of my hits. But we've got Dr. Gamelove loves Strider, and that's all good. Let's see what we got here. The voice of Sonic the Hedgehog and his made-for-TV brother and sister who had their own band. I'm not sure. Is that Urkel? Could be. Question from Jamie Andrews. How hard was it for you, Victor, to not give Astral Chain a 10 out of 10? People keep asking me about that, and they comment on my review on Astral Chain, which, if you have a Switch, go get this frickin' game. It's incredible. It's up there for the best thing I played this year so far. But I didn't give it a 10 because I didn't like it as much as Breath of the Wild. And I kept thinking, bless you, I kept thinking of Breath of the Wild because I was like, is this as seminal as that? And I didn't think it was, but that was in my mind. But that's how good it is. It made me struggle with what I was going to give it because it's so freaking cool and it's so out of nowhere, just like Control is. You know, like in 2019. And I think Christopher and Scott would back me up on this. It's so rare to see these massive AAA games that are so original and shocking and out of nowhere. You know, it's such a huge investment, and when they're that big and they're that creative and fun, we need to stop and applaud them. Happy Console Gamer says, "Hey Vic, do you like video games?" Not really. Not really. No, not really. I just like Urkel. Question, do you think Ezra Miller's dark take on the Flash movie will be any good? Jeff Beecham throwing down the gauntlet there. I haven't liked what they've done with the Flash, except for the race at the end of Justice League where the Flash and Superman were smiling and colorful, and it looked like they were going to have fun racing around the world. I like that bit. I don't like the armor on the Flash. The Flash should be wearing fast clothing, nothing that makes him look like it's gonna catch air and slow him down. You know, it just looks so stupid. That was a design choice that Zack Snyder did. The actor seems fine. He seems, you know what it is that they make the amazing Flash TV show right here in our city, and Grant Gustin is awesome as Barry Allen, the Flash, and it's so hard for me to forget him and think that, oh yeah, I'm fully invested in whatever they're working on this movie that's taking forever with this new Flash thing. So I don't know. I don't know if it will be dark. I think what they'll try to do is make it a lot more funny. Did you finish?
No.
You're not finished yet?
Yeah.
Come on. I thought you were a speedrunner. No, I'm bugging. I think the only game I've given a 10 was Ghost Trick on the DS at A+, same thing. It's Blair Farrell. I don't have a 10. Every game could be better in some way. Yeah, that's an argument I've definitely heard. When you never give out 10s because everything can be better. I don't know, man. I like to award unbelievable inventiveness and creativity and kind of things that move the needle and shift like Grand Theft Auto 3 or which I think is arguably, well, now it's Zelda Breath of the Wild, best game of all time. But I believe in the power of bestowing a 10 on games that deserve it, and those games certainly do. I've got time for one more question, and then we got to wrap it up here. Let's see if there's anybody that actually has a queue. I love seeing things that were canceled. Oh, so Geek Hero wants to see NBA Live 11. Question, oh no, that was the Flash. Oh, here we go. Nintendo Boy 17, are you planning on playing Smash DLC one of these days? Banjo released not long ago, and Terry Bogard is coming to November. Here's what's going on, right? It's the Game Avalanche season, so everything is coming in. I want to play the DLC to Smash, and I want to play No Man's Sky so bad, but I've got a bunch of games in the queue. The new Zelda, the Man of Medan, the sort of interactive adventure type game, the Iceborne DLC for Monster Hunter. There's the Ni no Kuni. The remake of that, and Borderlands 3 I think comes in tomorrow, and I'm getting inundated with things. So I don't know when I will get back to Smash DLC, but maybe it'll be on Let's Play and Chat. That's actually a great suggestion. I'd love to play Banjo. That would be super fun. Okay, that is going to do it for our episode today. It's not fully confirmed yet, but Rod Ferguson and I have been going back and forth with from the Coalition. Gears 5 is out this week. The reviews are out there. I gave it a 9. It's a phenomenal achievement, and I'm so happy and proud of all those folks over at the Coalition. But Rod and I have been talking about him coming back. And so we're looking at Friday as he coming back to the show. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the choices that are made in the story. So it'll be a little spoilery, but it'll be a fun conversation with the head of Gears on Friday. So please come down to 390 West Hastings, the VFS Cafe in Vancouver, if you live in the city, or watch the stream right here. Until then, we're going to say goodbye for now, but lots of content coming tomorrow. We'll see you on Friday. And until then, play forever. Nice. Thank you.